The fundamental issue is that they're out of harmony with themselves. They're trying to follow a preset script that somebody told them, and they're not following their authentic inner guidance. They may have it all on paper, but be quietly weeping when they're by themselves because their life isn't fulfilling for them. Every single shark on there said that their key to success was hard work. Then I look up their cards to play, and they're all playing power success cards.
And my patterning was I would get into romantic relationships where men were not emotionally available. And then I finally discovered, oh wait, I'm not emotionally available.
Ready to revolutionize your content game? Meet Modern IQ, the AI tool that creates SEO optimized, plagiarism-free blog posts with just one click. No more writer's block or endless hours of content creation. Generate high-quality articles that boost visibility, save time, and slash marketing costs. Whether you're a startup or an established business, this tool is your content team, marketing expert, and SEO guru in one. Click on the link in the description to claim your free article and join forward-thinking entrepreneurs who are working smarter, not harder. The future of effortless marketing is here. Are you ready to dive in? What happens when you build the career, the income, the title, or the business, and it still doesn't feel right? A lot of high achievers don't talk about this part, the quiet misalignment that can show up after success, the sense that you're performing well but not fully living in alignment. Today's guests work with leaders who look successful on paper but feel something deeper is off. Alexander Dunlop went from Harvard to Wall Street, the classic path of achievement, before realizing success alone wasn't enough. Vicky Scudery is an intuitive healer who works with high performers to clear emotional and energetic blocks that strategy alone can't fix. Together, they help CEOs and entrepreneurs understand why patterns repeat, why self-sabotage shows up in every smart, capable people, why self-sabotage shows up even in smart, capable people, and how to build success that feels aligned, not just impressive. If you've ever wondered why achievement doesn't automatically create fulfillment, this conversation is for you. I'm Linda Vo, and this is inspired by success. Let's welcome Alexander Dunlop and Vicky Scudery to the show.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us, Linda.
No worries. I'm curious to know, first of all, Alexander, you followed the classic success path. You went from Harvard to Wall Street. When did you realize that achievement alone wasn't enough?
When did I realize that? That's a good question because I honestly had that inkling all along. I, at first, never imagined myself going into corporate America as I kind of was going through my education. I always thought that it might not be fully for me. I always kind of had that kind of intuition, let's say. After Harvard, I actually went to graduate school before going to Wall Street. I thought I was going to go into academia. I have a master's degree in Roman Catholic theology, and I thought I was going to go on to study philosophy of religion, comparative religion. After my master's degree, I realized I'd had enough of academia. I had enough of reading all day long in the library, and I wanted a change. So I decided, and I was tired of being a broke graduate student. So I thought, I want to make money. I'm going to go into the corporate world. I loved my time in corporate America. I learned so much from that and the people who I worked with. But I kind of always knew that that wasn't going to be my long-term path and that there was something deeper calling me. And that's really because at age 17, I'd had a surprising spiritual awakening. So I was already looking for the deeper meaning. And what I've found over the years among my clients, and then since we started working together, our clients, is that there's a lot of more than you might think on the surface. There are a lot of very spiritual people and spiritual seekers, even within Wall Street or corporate America. They can't really talk about it professionally, but it's there, and it's a human need, and people want meaning and fulfillment, and they may have it all on paper, but be quietly weeping when they're by themselves because their life isn't fulfilling for them.
Yeah.
I always kind of had an inkling, but it did take me on my journey to really, I tried it out for myself. It's like, I need to eat the broccoli first to make sure I don't really like it. I worked in corporate America. I'm like, I kind of thought that wasn't going to be for me, but at least I have that experience and I know firsthand what it's like.
You don't like broccoli?
I do like broccoli, but it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Yeah, I totally get you because I I love growth, I love business, I love building, but I also want that deeper seeking and understanding. And I know that spirituality and self development plays into it as well. And there are a lot of things that can help us build success. And there's also a lot of things that can block our success too. So that's why I'm really excited to have you guys both here. And I'm curious to know about you too, Vicky, because you're the intuitive one, the feminine energy, the one that understands the healer. So tell us about your journey and what led you to where you are now.
So, in my late 20s, I had a medical issue. I actually didn't get my period for 6 years. I went to a lot of doctors. Doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And then I went to an energy healer and had one session. And after, I would say it was between 1 to 3 days, I got my period. It was like
Wow.
right after having this session. It was really profound, and it just got me going. Like, I was like, wow, it just catapulted me into the land of healing, of spirituality, of who am I, why am I here, wanting to learn as much as I could about energy and what is God and what does that mean to me. So I really went on this, like 20 years of searching, working with different healers, of going to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, and, lots of weekend workshops, lots of tools in my toolbox, looking at my shadow side, going into the depths of my own self, of my dark places, of my wounds and things like that. And then 13 years ago, I met Alexander and at a cafe, and he came up to me and he started chatting with me, and then he asked me my date of birth and basically told me everything about myself in about 20 minutes. And we joke that I had spent up until that point, it had been 20 years that I spent, like on this journey of growth in myself. And in 20 minutes, he tells me a lot of the same things that I had learned on this 20-year journey. He put the cards on the table.
Using cards, playing cards, or tarot
Yes.
cards? What cards?
So basically, the cards he put on the table are the source cards. They're the regular deck of 52 playing cards that we know as a game that we play gin rummy with and bridge with our
Mm-hmm.
kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually an ancient language, and it was hidden as a game. It's a language of life. And we have cards that we're dealt based on our date of birth that we have for our whole life. We have a life path of 13 plus cards, and each card shows a different aspect of who we are. And it's so accurate that I just once I learned it, I was like, wow, this is like really accurate about me. So then I started looking up all my friends and family in my life and past relationships and past lovers, and everything, like, so much made sense because I just kept having these epiphanies and aha moments continuously, because I was like, wow, that's why this relationship, that's why this dynamic, and things really fell into place for me knowing these cards.
Wow, that's
So
pretty
yeah.
powerful. We'll get to that too. But no, that's fascinating because my mum used to always do every night. She'd use the cards and just read her. I don't know what she was doing, but I think she was reading her signs or future with that. And I never thought deeply about it too. But I guess the power of numbers is the power, like the birth signs of numbers. That's the thing, like that's the mystical side of things as well. We'll get to that too. But now I want to know about the things that the business people, the high achievers, the entrepreneurs don't understand, and where they can help themselves be
Sure.
aligned as well. Because you guys have worked with high achievers who've checked every box, but still, like what you mentioned, they still feel like something is missing. So can you get into a little deeper into that and explain why sometimes we create, even though we've hit those goals, or you hear about stories of people that have hit those milestones and then they feel empty and not fulfilled. And my perspective was maybe because there's not enough gratitude or enough purpose to make an impact. Because when people give and make an impact or donate to charity or something to a strong cause that they believe in, maybe that might fulfill them. But is there anything else that you think is missing, and why people that are high achievers and super successful sometimes don't feel that they still feel empty?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to speak to that a little more specifically. It has to do with not being in tune with yourself. It does nothing to do with how much charity you do or philanthropy or so-called meaningful work. I would say it also has nothing to do with your levels of gratitude or appreciation. What it has to do with is whether or not you're in tune with yourself, whether you're in harmony with yourself, literally, as if you yourself are a musical instrument. People can reach to the mountaintop just through sheer grit, just through hard work, or maybe they're also really smart and they got a great education and they had supportive parents and they had some privilege and they had, the right things fell into place to enable them to climb the corporate ladder. They can get to the top, but they may not know themselves. That whole maxim of know thyself, they may not know themselves. They may have just worked really hard and been really smart and or gotten lucky. And they get to the mountaintop, not necessarily because they are living a meaningful, fulfilling life. They get to the mountaintop just because they knew how to play the corporate game and climb the corporate ladder. And they get to the top and then they're like, now what?
Yeah, what next?
Sure, it can help to do some philanthropy. Of course, that's nice. And to look around and get maybe some hobbies and start playing pickleball or do other things that may fill your time. But the fundamental issue is that they're out of harmony with themselves. They're trying to follow a preset script that somebody told them, society told them, corporate game told them, maybe their parents told them, and they're not following their authentic inner guidance. They're not really listening to what their soul is asking them to do. I see this and we see this all the time. I'll give an example. Somebody could be born to play the Four of Diamonds. And the Four of Diamonds is about organization and structure. The four is a box. If you pull out any deck of cards, you pull it out from your game drawer, you dust off the cobwebs, and you can find the Four of Diamonds in the pack. And you can see that the Four of Diamonds is a box. So that's about organization and structure, organizing things, structuring what matters. If that's your birth card, then that's your way. That's how you operate. And for instance, I once had a client who was a woman who was running her business, and yet she felt really unfulfilled because she kept thinking that she should be doing something different. It was kind of the reverse, actually, paradoxically, of the norm. So it's an interesting example. She was a successful business owner, but kept thinking she should be more spiritual or be more creative, more out of the box. And when I showed her card to play, that she's playing the Four of Diamonds and it's all about structure and organization and that's her way, she was like, no wonder I've always liked that. I always thought there was something wrong with me, that I like to have order and organization, that I'm not more dynamic, air quotes, or I'm not more adventurous, or I'm not more innovative. I'm perfectly happy in my routines and my structure. And I always judged that. And I always thought there was something wrong with me. Once she started accepting that she is born to play the Four Diamonds and that's her life path, and it's all based on math, the cards that you're born with. So there's no shuffling and pulling. It's a mathematical system. Once she accepted that for herself, then the judgment melted away and she had physical symptoms that she couldn't get rid of, nagging physical symptoms that no doctor had been able to cure. The physical symptoms went away as well. And she felt happier and more content in herself simply by knowing herself, knowing her life path, knowing her template. Her career didn't change. Her job title didn't change, but she knew herself. She knew what makes her tick. She knew why she's here. She knew how she operates. And that answered that kind of unspoken question of who am I and what am I really here to do? And again, once she found that, she found the fulfillment she was looking for.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Is that what you mean by an itch in the soul?
Yes, because
that itch
often
really
people
signaling?
can't put their finger on it. They don't even know what it is. And they've usually, by the time people come to us, they've tried everything. That tends to be our client base, is the person who's tried everything, read every spiritual book, met with every other healer, and nothing else has worked, but they still have something like, there's something I know that's missing and I can't put my finger on it.
So for those who are listening and feel the same way, how you mentioned like you need to be in tune with yourself. So how does one become more in tune with themselves? Is it they need to do a deck of card reading with you, or like how do we know and how do we
finding out the cards that you're playing? So you can find that out on our website. We have a free reading of the first two cards in the life path. You go to thesourcecards.com and on the home page you enter your date of birth and up pops the first two cards. Your birth card is your essence, your light that you're here to shine, and your personality card is how you show up in the world, right? And they kind of dance together. I find that they like play off of each other. One shines through the other, like radiates through the birth, radiates through the personality, and they work together. So it's first finding out the cards that you're playing, again, based on your date of birth, and then really, really taking that in. there's an acceptance of, oh, these are the cards that I am playing for my life. I believe we choose our cards, that we're souls, and that we choose our birthday and we choose to come in to play those energy patterns out, because there's a lot of lessons that come with those energy patterns, right? There's things that, when we talk about people like repeating a pattern, it's always in the cards. You see, it's just laid out so beautifully, like how everything is in the cards. So you're choosing certain things to work on, I believe, by choosing the birthday, by choosing these patterns. And then it's really about accepting, taking it in, digesting it, and learning how to play the patterns well.
It's something I'm fascinated by, because some of these patterns could be really harming us, and if we're not self-aware of it too. So I want to go a little bit deeper into those patterns. And you mentioned repeating the patterns, some relationship issues. Like, some people have the same patterns over and over. Some people have the same business ceilings and they can't achieve that extra, limit that they want. And sometimes there's self-sabotaging patterns that we keep doing unconsciously as well. And it's not bad luck, but it's information. So what is it trying to reveal us? Can you go deeper into these patterns as well, and how we can overcome them? I know I was listening to...
It isn't about overcoming them.
It's not?
That's the
Okay.
first. No, it's not about overcoming the patterns. The
Learning
patterns,
about them and learning about what they're trying to teach us as well.
yes, there's that. And the idea of overcoming patterns sets us up for failure. It sets us up for the mindset that there's something wrong with what is in the present moment. And that's a typical kind of hustle harder mentality that business people have, that I'm going to fix something, I'm going to overcome something. But that often keeps us spinning like a hamster on a wheel, because that's not the right mindset. It's not the way to envision what actually leads to success. Because what actually leads to success, as Vicky just said, is to accept the patterns. The patterns are showing something. The patterns are revealing something. It can be that the patterns are something that you want to accept so that you can dissolve them and release them from your life and let them go. More often than not, though, what we see is that the patterns are a reflection of the low side of the cards to play. So it's simply a matter of being conscious of choosing to play your cards better, choosing to play the patterns out in a more fulfilling, meaningful way. I'll give you an example. My birth card is the 9 of hearts. Based on math, that's my birth card, is the 9 of hearts. The 9 is a ladder. Again, on the patterning of the card, you can pull out a dusty deck from your kitchen drawer and look up the 9 of hearts, and you'll see that the 9 is a ladder. In hearts, it's about relationships, emotions, how I feel. When I didn't know my cards to play, there's my lovely Vicky holding up the 9 of hearts. When I didn't know about my cards to play, unknowingly, I would often get in a pattern of feeling sorry for myself, playing the victim, which is the low pattern of the 9 of hearts. And that would be a recurring pattern where I would feel a sense of loss, a tragedy, an upset that would take me down a few rungs in my heart. That was a recurring pattern in my life. When I found out my cards to play, it didn't instantly solve it, but it gave me a lens with which to see this pattern. It's not me, it's a pattern. That's the first important thing. It's a pattern that I can see and observe. And if I'm seeing it and observing it, then by definition, I am not this pattern. I am that which is observing the pattern. And instantly, then we have a power of choice, where before we felt controlled by the pattern that we can't get out of, where we then may feel like we need to, air quotes, overcome this pattern, which again doesn't work. Instead, we can start to witness the pattern and observe it. And in the witnessing of it, then we have space to make a different choice. And then, for example, I can choose. Do I want to stay wallowing in my private pity party? Do I want to stay in a low emotional place? Or do I prefer to climb up out of it into a higher expression emotionally, where the highest expression of the 9 of hearts is bliss? And I get to lift other people up and inspire other people and elevate other people from my own emotional barometer, my own emotional state. But if I don't know that, then I don't have any power to choose how to play it. I'm stuck in it. And it just happens to me as if it were fate, as if it were impossible to change. And that's just the way it is. And that's just how life goes. No, there are patterns in play. And this deck of 52 shows what those patterns are so that then we have the power to make a different choice.
It's interesting. It's like a game. It seems like it's like a game in a way. And
Game.
life is a game, the school of life is a game, a university, I don't know. But these patterns that you mentioned, I personally see it in relationships as well. And I'm curious to know, like, as a solution problem solver, my natural instinct is if you're having a relationship pattern that keeps constantly happening in your relationship, I wonder if having two people with their cards read would help them both understand the constant patterns they're doing, and if things aren't improving and things aren't changing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have relationships that when both of the couples together have their cards read and have a deeper understanding, does that help their relationship improve and work on it? Or does it also depend on the choices that we make as well, knowing these patterns? But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's my favorite topic. It really is. I mean, it improves relationships by thousands, percent. Just knowing someone else's patterns that can be in play is illuminating for a relationship because there's an acceptance that happens. So I'll use us as an example. Alexander's talking about how he's playing the birth card of the Nine of Hearts and how he could go, down into the low side, a pity party victim, and if that were to happen to him, if I know his cards to play, I know exactly what's happening. I know exactly, oh, wow, he's feeling, into that low emotional, there's something emotional happening for he's going really low. It's part of the patterning that he's playing out. I can have way more acceptance and compassion for him in our relationship dynamic. I can meet his need and where he's at. I can go to him and see how, what's happening for you, and and hold the space for him in a better way because I know what's happening. Same thing with me. I'm playing as my birth card, the Five of Diamonds. Five is about being out of the box. It's a change agent, giving a fresh new perspective. Diamonds represent what you value most in your life. On the low side, the five can spin and spin and spin all over the place. Like, oh, how about this over here, go, and so like, if he knows that about me, knows the Five of Diamonds, like she's going crazy right now, like she's, all over the place spinning. It can be so helpful for him to be like, oh, okay, I know what's happening. She's in the low side. Maybe he comes to me like really in a grounded way to like help my energy. Like I need to center myself when that's happening. So even just coming over and like take a couple breaths with me, could be really helpful. Again, there's an acceptance that happens, more compassion for the other person. It's really wonderful. I mean, it's just like, it provides so much information as to how someone else is showing up and why what's happening is happening. And then like you have more information, about like the other person and about yourself. And then that dynamic, like how to, have a different exchange, make a different choice because you know the patterns that are in play.
Okay, for those who haven't had the chance to do the cards, what happens when someone keeps attracting the same type of partner or repeating the same dynamic, the same patterns? What's really, really going on deep beneath the surface? For those that haven't done the card game yet, is it just because they're unaware?
Unaware, but maybe there's a wound that there's a recurring reason. What is interesting is that when we look up people's cards, then we often can see right away why they keep picking the same person. I'll take Vicky as an example.
I was going to say, I'm the perfect example of this.
You want to go? Yeah.
I mean, I definitely had a pattern in relationships. It's one of the things I really believe I came here to look at that and understand that energy of relationship dynamics more deeply. To be able to receive love and express myself more deeply. And my patterning was I would get into romantic relationships where men were not emotionally available. And then I finally discovered, oh, wait, I'm not emotionally available, which is why I keep creating this pattern over and over, because these men are a mirror for who I am. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. I create my reality through what I believe. So in looking at my cards to play, we have, as I mentioned, life path of cards. Our Pluto card is the 9th card in the life path. It represents our unconscious hidden fears. And my Pluto card is the 4 of Hearts. And the 4 is a box, and hearts represent emotions, feelings. So I would just shove all my feelings into a box and not express my truth and not express what I was really feeling. And I would have this facade, which goes along with my personality card of the Queen of Spades, a queenly energy, Zen presence. And I'd shove the feelings into a box and I'd be like, everything is fine. Everything is great. And yet deep down, I was numb to even what the feelings were. I finally started to explore what are the feelings I'm really having, and then accessing them and honoring them, acknowledging them, and then starting to express them. And it wasn't until I really started to explore that in myself that I changed the relationship dynamic, like who I was meeting. All of a sudden, I started to meet a different kind of man, a man that was more emotionally available. And it was wild because I'd be like, wow, I'm changing in myself. And suddenly there's a person is showing up that is completely reflecting where I'm at now, you know?
That's powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
When you mentioned that putting those emotions in the box, I can certainly relate to that, because as an entrepreneur, a business owner, we're programmed to be our best performing self, and if we're leading a team, you don't want to be that over emotional, and like, there's parts of me that want to be authentic, but I also don't want to be over emotional and put my personal life into what I'm doing with my professional, like my business, for example. Over time, can definitely relate, and I'm sure other entrepreneurs as well. They need to have that strong toughness because they're building something, they're leading, and they have to put all those emotions aside as well. But can you go a little? What was that?
Unless you're born to play, for example, the King of Hearts or the Queen of Hearts, and then you want to lead with your emotional intelligence, and that would be the best way to grow your business.
Yeah. So yeah, this is why I'm just fascinated. I've got to do this. But when does that block our success, and it blocks our abundance that comes through, do you think, when we're not fully self-aligned? Or sometimes people use this pain as well from a wounded space. They use that, like me. I've gone through a lot of things in my life, and I've gone through a lot of challenges growing up, and I think it was all for a purpose, and I know that it was forming who I am today. And I've used that. I've got this ability to be able to use my pain and use it as fuel to succeed. But one of the guests that I spoke to, she said, ambition is great, but if it's coming from a wounded place, it doesn't last. So how can entrepreneurs, build from a place that's not from wounds, and feel like fulfilled from doing it because they're aligned? How can they do that? Do they have to just go deep within, feel the pain, like you said, or
Not
just get a better
necessarily. I
understanding?
mean, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, the way that you can do that is by finding out your cards to play and consciously choosing to play your cards right. That's the simple formula. It's not necessarily easy because there's work to do, especially the work is to untrain yourself from all the ways in which you thought you should behave or act or run a business. More often than not, when I'm coaching high level people in business space, it's helping them to unlearn, let's say, what they learned in their MBA program about the best way to manage people. And I look at their cards and be like, oh, you're born to play the Eight of Hearts. You need to manage people like this. This is your best strategy for how you best operate. It's not a cookie cutter approach or one size fits all that you might have read in some management book. So often it's how the deprogramming phase is the most important part of being able to consciously play your cards right. Now, I will say that I had searched everywhere for toolkits, answers. I studied philosophy at Harvard. I have a master's in Roman Catholic theology. I also went to India, meditated all day, became a Swami. I've worked with shamans, plant medicine ceremonies, read every esoteric book I could get my hands on. I found out my gene keys, my human design, my Mayan astrology, my Vedic astrology. I learned how to do palm reading, you name it, and I tried it to find the answers to my life, starting from that spiritual awakening when I was 17. And this is by far the simplest and most accurate toolkit I've ever found in terms of being able to diagnose your life and map out the template of your life. So that's why I decided to start teaching it. And my family thought I was crazy when I told them 15 years ago that this is what I'm going to do with my life. Like, no, mom, this is what I'm going to do. When are you going to get a job? No, you understand. This is what I want to do with my life. I found it. I want to coach people to play their cards right because this is the secret formula that will help everybody get on track in life and know their way, know how to build that career path that will be fulfilling for them. That's the formula, and it's there. It's all hidden in plain sight all this time, right under our noses, and it's all based on our date of birth. So it's very simple. If you want, Linda, we can do a quick mini reading for you. Are you open?
Oh yes, I mean, like, I was going to ask for this like after the show sometime, but I guess putting myself out there, this is
You
good.
want to do
Everyone
it?
gets to know.
What's your birthday? Just a
But
month
this
and
is
a
the
day is
thing.
all we need.
But this is the thing, right? When I came to Australia, my mum, I don't know if she got the wrong date of birth, but because she came to Australia, she got a different date of birth on my birth. Anyway, it was just one date of birth is different, but the one that I know that's on my Vietnamese birth certificate is the 6th of November 1979. But on another date of birth, she got the wrong date. And it was 2 years late, like 78 or something like that. So it was wrong. But I've always stuck with 6/11/79 because of that.
November
What do you?
6th.
Yeah, it's Seven's birthday. It's our
Oh,
son's.
sorry, 6th of November. And I'm curious to know what happens, like when you know all this, and I'm curious to know the case studies when people understand this and what they've done with it and how they've grown. If you've got any case
That's
studies.
a fantastic question. That's what we do on our podcast. We interview
Ah,
people, and it's like case studies of people playing their cards right
ah.
in their life. And then we're gathering a library of all the different birthdays of people playing out different life paths.
You can
You're
use
born,
me as a guest. You can use me as a guinea pig for the next one and see how we go. After you read this, and see how we go. Because I am like a high. I like to strive. I like to have goals. I like to achieve. Maybe
you're
it's
very
coming.
single-minded. You're very single-pointed. Your birth card is the Ace of Diamonds. If your birthday is November 6th, and it does seem to fit with your interest as an entrepreneur, because the Ace of Diamonds is entrepreneurial. Diamonds
Okay.
is the suit that represents what matters in life, everything that is a material substance. Hearts is the heart, clubs is the mind, and spades is consciousness. So diamonds represent the physical material dimensions of life. And as the Ace of Diamonds, you're here to initiate something tangible and physical. You're here to bring it forth. So you're here to be an entrepreneur, start a business to make money. And you can be very single focused, single pointed, and single minded in your pursuit. Is that
Oh wow.
true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely true.
It can be hard for you even to have relationships because you're so single minded and so single pointed in what it is that matters to you. You go all in on the one thing. So it's important for you to be aware of that. We were talking about earlier about patterns and awareness. It's important for you to be aware that you can have almost tunnel vision sometimes. You're just so focused on the one thing that then you may forget about the people around you.
So so that's the negative side of being that, but
I
in a
wouldn't even
positive sense.
negative. It's just, it is what it is. It's a pattern. If you're not playing it well, people might think you're being selfish, or they might think you don't like being around them, that you just prefer to be on your own and have your own solitude, and that may be confusing for them. Like, why don't you don't want to spend time with me? What's going on? It's a pattern, and it's for you to be aware that you like your solitude and you need your solitude, and you are single pointed and single minded, and it just is what it is. But with awareness, you can soften that and choose to play it in a way that is a little more gracious and inviting to the people around you.
So when you do these readings, do you go into more cards, or is it just that main one card?
Well, that's the starting point. And then there's a whole life path of 13 cards. And then every year you have new cards to play based on your yearly cycle. And so then you get more tactical and very specific in your yearly cycles of what's happening right now, and then how to go about playing your cards right now.
That's beautiful. And yes, I do agree. A lot of that was definitely true. And I have heard of that when you said, why don't you spend time more? Yeah, it's mind blowing. I just wanted to know when you know this strategy, and then you integrate the healing. What does real transformation require in both strategic and clarity, and like also emotional and energetic healing? Do we need both when we have the strategic? Because like I think masculine and energy is very important together as well, that energy. But when it comes to strategy and healing and integrating them both, how does that work?
Yes. Again, it's really like about learning them, accepting them. I feel like one of the keys is not judging them. So when learning, like we would say like the low side and the high side of an energy pattern, learning the low side is like, bringing light to that and saying, I can do that, but then not judging when it happens. It's not like, oh, I can only going to play this high side all the time. It's like we're human beings. We move in and out of things. We make choices. We learn from it. We make another choice, So there's that acceptance, really digesting, these energy patterns that one is playing. And then also just really learning not to accept and acknowledge oneself, which I think is part of the healing process, to really bring full acceptance and love for oneself in all the patterns that we play out, right? There's such an acknowledgement of, like, if I'm playing a low side of my 5 of diamonds, for example, the card that I'm playing, it's like, oh, like really acknowledging what's happening for me in that moment and not going into judgment, like, oh, I did it again and I can't believe it and I've got to be better and I've got to do better. So it's like relaxing into the process of really learning the cards and how to play them well. And then, it's a practice. So I feel like some people could see this as novelty. Like, I'm going to get a reading and look at this is so cool. Look at my cards. They're so accurate. And then it gives them confirmation of patterns that they're playing and things like that, their purpose. But it's not novelty. It is actually something to use as guidance and a tool for one's life's journey, right? It's a continuous process of, I'm learning every single day. Like, I have aha moments every day. I'm looking at things. I'm learning things. I'm continuously evolving in how I play the cards, So it's a practice as to how to shift into that, by doing, having the awareness, the acceptance, and then there's exercises of how to play it well, depending on your cards to play. Like I mentioned how I could be spinning and spinning and spinning. So one thing, and I could be spinning in my physical body because the diamond represents the physical, 5 of diamonds. Anything I can perceive with my 5 senses, one of those things being my physical body. And so it's important for me to really find stillness in my physical body, right? To really, I do a lot of body work on myself. Like, I have my tools and working out and things like that, yoga, stretching. That's really good for me, and so that's a daily thing of how can I, support my physical body that can be scattered and hold on to things. Like, I can hold on to things in my physical body, like tension and stress and worry and things like that. How do I help myself by using those things as a practice? And then there's exercises I can do every day. Like, I like change. So changing it up every day or making different choices is very supportive for me. So depending on the cards, it's a continuous process and practice to play them well, to step into really activating them, on a deep level. And it's going to be completely different for Alexander playing the 9 of Hearts, and it'll be totally
I have
different.
I have a different game to play. Literally a different game to play than you or Vicky. And it's so important, as I mentioned earlier, because we try to follow a one-size-fits-all model, and we get advice, and maybe that advice worked for that person, and they'll be like, I'm your mentor and follow me, and here's my 4-step formula, and then you can't quite do it, but you have different cards to play. And I see it all the time, all across the internet and self-help books. Someone has a model that worked for them. I look up their cards to play if they're famous enough, find their birthday, and it makes perfect sense. This is their model because that's their cards to play. But if you don't have their cards to play, then you will not be able to follow their model. You won't be able to follow their map or their program because that's not authentic to you.
Do you believe in creating your own reality though? Because I remember speaking to a guest once and I asked, they did well during the crash, and I said, how did you do well despite the crash? And they said they created their own reality. And I'm into the quantum physics and I love learning about that too. But so do you guys believe in
create our own vision? Absolutely. You can have your own vision, your own imagination. You can see it and then step into it for yourself. Absolutely. I would suggest also, not knowing, but my hunch is that person, maybe they're born to play a 7 of diamonds, and they're very good at taking something when the stock market is low or working in contrary times and pivoting that around, because the 7 is a pivot, and knowing how to work in that situation, that That may be exactly what they're good at, and that's why it worked for them. Here's a funny story. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that show? I mean, I guess it's still
Yeah.
popular. We used to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
Every single shark on there said that their key to success was hard work. I worked hard. That's my key to success. Then I look up their birthdays, look up their cards to play, and they're all playing power success cards, like an eight of diamonds, power, success, or a king of diamonds, success, mastery, and business. So they think that they're successful because they worked hard, but it's actually in their cards that they would rise to the top of their profession and be like a king of business, or the eight of
Wow.
diamonds is the alpha in business. So people can think, oh yeah, I'm creating my own reality. That's why I did it. But then you look at their cards to play and like, actually, yes, and it's in your life path design that you would have been successful in that particular endeavor.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Quick question for because we're running out of time, but do you have I missed anything? Is there any key piece of advice you want to share with the audience for the entrepreneurs out there as well that want to succeed in life? And you've given some great advice and some different insights that I found fascinating as well. Do you have any key pieces of advice or anything that I've left out that you'd want to share?
Many. I could keep
Learn your
talking.
cards to play.
Learn your cards to play.
Really, I mean, it just, first of all, it's a lot of fun, and it just really, it's accurate, it's fun, and life-changing. Yeah.
100%. And here's an additional gem of wisdom nugget specifically for entrepreneurs. By definition, you're marching to your own beat. You're on the new terrain. You're going into unknown territory. You are creating your own way. You're not following the corporate script. You're not trying to climb the corporate ladder. So you are, by definition, outside of the bounds of the structure, finding your own way. You need this more than the person who's climbing the corporate ladder. You need a map, because you don't have a map otherwise. It's even more important for an entrepreneur to have a map like this. Maybe they use astrology, or there's other esoteric tools as well. This isn't the only one. I think it's the simplest, easiest, and most accurate. But as an entrepreneur, you want a map so that you're not flying blind. So then at least you don't suffer decision fatigue where you're constantly like, which way do I go? You look at your cards to play. You're born to play the ace of diamonds. You will always need to initiate it yourself. That's always the way. That's always the strategy for the ace of diamonds. If you were born to play the two of diamonds, you would always need to partner. Your business strategy would be find partnerships. Ace of diamonds, your business strategy is do it yourself, where you may think I need to find a partner, or I don't know enough yet. I got to gather more information. I got to get more resources, and that will stop you. But in fact, your map playing the ace of diamonds is start it. You need to start it, and then learn as you go. But that advice for an entrepreneur playing different cards will be very different.
Yeah, you don't want it. We wouldn't tell that to the King of Hearts. It's completely different.
Completely different advice.
Yeah.
Wow. Where can people find you if they want to connect and learn more about what you guys do?
We have lots to explore on the website. You can find the first two cards by entering your birthday. And you can get Alexander's book, Play Your Cards Right, A Sacred Guide to Life on Earth.
You can look up all 13.
All 13 cards in the life path you'll find in the book. So
Is that on Amazon? Is that on everywhere? Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, and you can also find it on the website. And we're on all, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, at the source cards.
At the source cards. Thank you so much for your time, guys. It's been very eye-opening, and I hope you guys listening or watching have found this very useful. If you have, please do me a favor and hit that follow button and subscribe. And let me know what you think if you found it very valuable. Thank you so much, guys, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you.